Later today, the Supreme Court will consider whether a Tennessee law that bans gender-affirming care for trans youth discriminates on the basis of sex.
Well, this marks the first time that the court will consider a law restricting transition-related health care for minors, and legal experts say that their decision could impact this care for both minors and adults for decades to come. NBC News Justice correspondent, Intelligence correspondent Ken Dilanian joins us with more on this. Ken, good morning.
Hey, so Ken, walk us through, first of all, what the Tennessee law says, and just what's the key legal question the court is going to be answering today.
Good morning, Joe and Savannah. Well, this law is one of more than 24 in the country that ban so-called gender-affirming care for minors, things like puberty blockers and hormone treatments for anyone under 18. And it's being challenged on the grounds that it violates the 14th Amendment Equal Protection Clause in the Constitution, that it discriminates on the basis of sex. And that is the Biden administration position in this case, as well as the position of the plaintiffs. The appeals court ruled that this law was a reasonable response to conflicting medical evidence. And so that's the question here. And if the court rules that there is discrimination on the basis of sex, then the case is subject to what's called heightened scrutiny, and there's more of a chance that this law would be upheld. If the court decides that sex is not an issue here, then it's very likely that this law will be upheld, guys.
Ken, since 2020, 26 states have passed laws restricting gender-affirming care for trans youth. How will the court's decision on this Tennessee law impact the rest of the country when we see that this patchwork is starting to appear?
Yeah, this could be the final word on this question of whether states can, in fact, ban this kind of care for minors. And it's going to ripple across the country and have an influence on a lot of things. And you know, look, it's a really interesting issue. The medical evidence is mixed. In fact, in the UK, the National Health Service has banned the prescription of puberty blockers and other kinds of care for people under 18 after a review found that the evidence for those treatments was remarkably weak. In the United States, medical experts have weighed in more on the side of providing that care. And as you say, the country is divided along red and blue lines on this. It's become a really hot social issue. And so this court's decision will really have an influence on the debate here.
And Ken, we see what's happening at the state level, but in his campaign, President-elect Trump promised to bar trans health care for minors nationwide, to prohibit Medicaid from covering the care. So could the outcome of this case in front of the Supreme Court impact whether his promises become a reality?
Yeah, absolutely, Joe. Obviously, if the court decides that this law is discriminatory under the Constitution, then that would mean that Donald Trump cannot do that. He couldn't ban Medicaid or Medicare from covering these benefits because they would be protected on gender discrimination grounds. If the court rules the other way, then Donald Trump and the Republican Congress would be free to do that, guys.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.